Welcome to the lecture titled Well-Being in Contemporary East Asian Cultural Context. As a part of the lecture series Psychology of Well-Being. Well, in the previous lecture, we looked at the Chinese scholarly traditions of Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism, and how that helps shape the notions of well-being in the Chinese culture. Now, in this lecture, we are going to look at that how in the contemporary East Asian cultures, which also includes the Chinese culture, besides other uh, countries in the East Asia, that how such scholarly notions might still be shaping the experiences or the notions of well-being in the contemporary times. So we will begin with defining East Asian culture in the contemporary times. And we'll look at whether or not traditional scholarly traditions still hold good or make some sense in the contemporary times. We'll remind ourselves that there have been an important observation that in non-Western societies in general, the relational as well as hierarchical aspects of well-being could be observed, and we'll look at the idioms of distress to try and see that how the relational and hierarchical aspects of well-being may still be relevant to be looked into. Then we'll look at the healing process or the process of gaining well-being through traditional values, and we'll be taking examples from contemporary healing processes. Well, what is East Asian society or culture? The general geopolitical definition of East Asia comprises the Greater China region, that is mainland China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan, Japan, Republic of Korea, that is South Korea, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, that is North Korea, and Mongolia. However, in this lecture, it is based on the contributions by Lee, 2018, will focus on the research findings from China, Taiwan, Japan, and South Korea. Well, let us remind ourselves that the relational and hierarchical aspects of well being may still be relevant to be looked into in the non Western world, if not in the Western world, which may be marked by more the focus on the individual concerns rather than the relational ones. Let us look at the idioms of distress, and we might still be able to look at the rationale for our focus on the relational and hierarchical aspects of well being of people in these cultures. But in the East Asian culture, because mind and body are mutually constituted, they are not taken to be separate. For example, if there is a physical health problem, that it may not have much to do with person's psyche or mind and how one is situated in the relational context, but simply taken to be physical ailment, but not in the non-Western or the East Asian cultures, where they are not separately treated. That is why, unlike biomedicine, there is no specialty or subdiscipline, for example, psychiatry, in the theoretical system of traditional Chinese medicine as a part of East Asian culture. For example, Huabiong, that is fire illness, is a notion of distress used in Korea and is marked by chest pain, suffocating feelings, anger, and fatigue. So, fire illness, again, is something which is sort of not just about the physical symptoms like chest pain, but also it could also be associated with anger, fatigue, suffocating feelings. So, that's another example of how mind body are not taken separately. Similarly, changing Shwario, weakness of the nervous system, is a notion of distress used by Chinese people and is characterized by weakness, fatigue, fan nano, that is worry, and insomnia, that is lack of sleep, or the tendency to go off to sleep. Well, such notions and experiences of distress or struggles for well being are located in the relational or hierarchical context of their lives. For example, Hua-byung that we just now observed as fire illness is a way women may express emotional problems or resentment in a patriarchal society of South Korea. So it's not just about mind body uh, not being separate, but also how such interaction or interplay between mind and body, when taken together as an integrated whole, are not situated in vacuum. They are situated in the relational network or the hierarchical network, that is patriarchal society, for example, in South Korea. And that would be giving rise to women's distress, for example. Similarly, Shenzing Shuaryo is taken as embodiment of socioeconomic conflicts in Chinese communities. So it's important to see that how the socioeconomic conditions may be leading to the distress or struggles for well-being for people. It's important to note in that case that, as observed in the earlier lecture, harmony within a relationship can potentially address the distress or struggle for well-being of people. However, achieving harmony within a relationship may also have its own costs. For example, Japanese people may experience taijin kyofusho or distress arising from the concern of refraining from offending or discomforting significant others. So we also got to understand that how relational harmony may be an antidote to various kinds of relational issues or issues of well-being, problems of well-being. But it may also, at times, if overemphasized, then it may lead to guilt, it may lead to other forms of distress, that whether or not one is able to take care of significant others, or are they offending or discomforting others. So that may lead to a sense of further distress. Moving on, we find that healing process, that is to gain well-being through traditional values, is something that is highly pronounced in most of the cultures, in all the cultures, including the Chinese culture. And they have their, including the East Asian culture, and they have their own uniqueness regarding how well-being could be pursued through traditional values. And Lee points out that since emotional suffering is not construed as illness but as a relational issue, it may be regulated. It can be regulated through personal cultivation and the maintenance of harmonious relationships based on the Confucian principles of benevolence, righteousness, and propriety. Interrelationship among relational self, well being, and relational network is something that is very much pronounced, that is very much part of Chinese or East Asian ways of living. The experiences of relational self is associated with the traditions of Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. And we take examples from contemporary healing processes. Well, Confucian healing in Taiwan is taken to be ethical care and is understood as restructuring the interpersonal relationship that could be the origin of the struggle for well being. And other traditions, such as Taoism, Buddhism, or Shinto teaching, might be useful when the relational structuring might not be possible. And the affected person might be helped through an existential approach, that is, gaining insights in one's life about purposeful existence. Aspects of Buddhist tradition has shaped various healing practices that are focused on realizing the importance of here and now, rather than excessive emphasis on one excessive emphasis that one may give to personal ambitions, besides the role of relational bonds in one's life. So, Korean on Meum counseling is one such example of a Buddhist tradition based healing process. Japanese Morita and Nikan therapies is another example. And Taoism, that has focused on living in harmony with nature rather than blindly following personal ambitions, has shaped Chinese Taoist cognitive psychotherapy, which is much more than a cognitive psychotherapy or cognitive restructuring because it is based on focusing on living in harmony with nature. And that is something which is a very important input from the relational or spiritual aspects of Chinese scholarly tradition, that is Taoism in the East Asian cultures. Besides that, we have already seen that how Confucianism may help restructuring interpersonal relationship as far as ethical care is concerned. And these are some of the very important aspects of healing process, which are based on the East Asian scholarly traditions. Thank you very much.